Ready? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I called to order the special meeting of the Village of Ruidoso Council. We'll stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the state of New Mexico flag. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thank you.
Get that memorized, Alex.
Could I have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Pro Tem Salas,
Here.
Councilor Eby,
Here.
Councilor Letterman,
Here.
Councilor Hooker,
Here.
Councilor Jackson,
Here.
Councilor Corey.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2024-27, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2024 budget, quarter ending June 30th, 2024, for certain funds and application to the Local Government Division, LGD, of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for approval thereof. Yes, yay, Judy.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, councilors. In front of you is our fourth quarter budget adjustment that is due to DFA on the 31st. This encompasses all budget adjustments from April 1st through June 30th. Overall, the budgets for expenditures decreased by $270,409. But we'll go ahead and go through and stay, or the major part of our discussion is going to be on our resolution report. And I will go by fund, by category. If you have any questions or need further discussions, interrupt me and I'll try to answer them. But if everybody's ready, we'll go ahead and go. For the general fund, revenues increased $289,593. This is for the South Fork assistance. At the end of June, we had just spent out the door $289,000. You'll see a corresponding adjustment, not only in the revenue side, but on the expenditure side later on in the discussion. Currently, the budget is at $1,060,000. We're knocking on that door.
Is that the total?
That's the total, between the two.
So that's including this 289, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of the monies have already been spent, or we have them encumbered and we're waiting on some of the expenditures. The next category is transfers in. There's a transfer from corrections of $2,818. As you recall, at the end of June, correction fees are no longer a fine. They went away, so this is just transferring the residual monies through the end of June to the general fund. They go back just in operations to the general fund. Admin fees increased $386,731, primarily from SGRT at $215,779 and lodger's tax at $4,132 and solid waste at $166,820. So what's happening is we usually budget revenues low, and then as you know, GRT was up this year, and so some of the revenues exceeded budgeted amounts, and therefore the admin fee increased. On the expenditure side in the general fund, South Fork Fire expenditures at $289,593. We decreased Parks and Recs contractual services, $2,839. On one of the legislative appropriations for the country club bathroom, it was a little bit short for the electrical and some of the dirt work. So Parks and Rec, in order to make the legislative appropriation whole, they transferred that money down into intergovernmental grants, which you'll see later on. And then we also decreased our utilities. We had some savings there at $178,000. That money was used to buy the generator at Horton, so you'll see that also again. Transfers increased $237,318. We transferred the $178,000 to the General Capital Improvement Fund for the Horton generator. And you'll see the transfer to the intergovernmental grants for the VOR match at the Country Club restroom, which is tied to that legislative appropriation at $2,839. And I needed to balance the SURF, which is the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund, Replacement Fund, additional $25,969. And then the Senior Center Kitchen Design Legislative Appropriation needed an additional $834. DFA will not pay the CES 1.25 admin fee on a legislative appropriation if you use a CES contract. So Anthony was a little bit short, so we shored him up with that $834. And then we closed out Cree Meadows grant, and we needed to add another $3,600 to that. And I had also increased the Moon Mountain VR match, $26,040. But going through and reconciling the cash, I noticed I did it twice, so this one was an error. So in the first adjustment in July, you'll see that money coming back to the general fund. Those are all the changes to the general fund. If you have any questions.
Just real quick, going back to that deal with Anthony, and was that an unknown, that they wouldn't cover that administrative fee?
I think we thought that maybe because it was the senior, going through senior center, they would pay it, but unfortunately, the money was coming out of DFA when we thought the money was a legislative appropriation out of aging. What is it, aging and,
Long-term service.
long-term services? They do pay the admin fee, but DFA won't. So when we found out that the money was coming out of DFA, that's when we knew that we were gonna be
So it'll
short.
just be something going forward, you might.
Yes, and Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Hooker, in the past, as Judy stated, aging and long-term services, you send them, they pay it. DFA is a little different on that. You have to pull back the CES fees.
Sure, thank you.
The next fund is the correction fees fund, and it was just closing out the cash balances. We increased revenues by $420. We decreased expenditures by $2,600, and transfers out, of course, increased $2,818. The admin fees and SGRT increased by the $215,779. You'll see the transfer coming to the SERV from the general fund at $25,969. And then lodger's tax increased by revenues by $13,472. It was because the Flex Advertising Co-op at $10,572 and interest at $2,900. And then all those revenues went back into advertising at $13,472. The transfers out on lodger's tax decreased $620,868. Primarily for an increase to the general fund admin fees at $4,132, and then a decrease to the transfer to the special events. Last year, when we were doing the events, we would get the headliner, and so we had budgeted $625,000 to go into that fund. However, they took a different route as far as the summer concert series, which ended up being a lot cheaper. So the money that was already in some of the special events funds was used for that. So there was no need for the $625,000 to get moved out of lodger's tax to special events. So I just reversed it out and zeroed it out, which is good because, as you know, we would probably have a shortfall in lodger's tax. So now that money is available to help gap those any losses that we have out of lodger's tax. So on special events, you'll see the transfer going away, and then also you'll see a decrease in the expenditures. Special recreation expenditures increased by $22,000. And they bought a kayak South Pay Station. On intergovernmental grants, you'll see the transfer in for the Country Club bathroom at $2,839, the transfer for the Senior Center Kitchen Design at $834, the closeout on Cream Meadows of 3636 and the Moon Mountain area at 26,040. Our expenditures in that fund increased 2,839 for the bathroom, and then the next fund that increased was RSVP at 56,944. Anthony was awarded a federal grant. However, the federal grant period is from April till March, and so it doesn't coincide with our fiscal year, so we're recording the revenues and the expenditures now at the end of June, while this happened in April. And so you'll see an increase to not only revenues, but expenditures for that program on the federal side. Plus, he'll get the state grant that coincides July through June. So he's had a little bit of a change in trying to keep the two grants separate and being on different timing cycles, so. The General Capital Improvement Fund transfers in at 178,000, and then, of course, the expenditure for the generator. I know it is on order, and it should be arriving here in December sometime. GO bonds increased, expenditures increased 150,463. This is for the Series 2023 GO bonds debt service payment of $87,603. Principal was $55,000, and interest is the $32,603. And then the Series 22 interest at $62,860. On affordable housing, you'll see a transfer in from the affordable housing rental fund of $500, and that is to pay the Mortgage Finance Authority loan payment. On affordable housing, the rental part that holds all the rental properties for 1114 Meechin and the Rock House, we decreased the debt service payment by $5,000 and transferred $500 to the housing trust to pay for the loan payment. On solid waste, when I was balancing the cash,
Judy, on that Mortgage Finance Authority, doesn't that say 5 million?
it says 5,000.
Am I looking at that
For,
wrong?
for
Or
the
is it-
approved budget, she's
Oh,
reading.
5 mil, okay, for approved, and then adjustment, 500.
So the affordable housing part, why it's 5,000, that's where we build. We're building 603 Meacham. And so that's why that budget is a little bit bigger than the rental part, because it gets built out of the trust, which is Fund 507, and then we run the properties and the rental out of 508, because we have, and this is something we have to look at, we were trying to hold the money separate so that we can have part of the rents as replacement, maintenance, and sometimes if I commingle the monies together, it's hard to try to keep track of whatever it is, so that's why rental is different than where we build all our trust, or hold all our trust monies to build our properties.
Okay.
Solid waste, expenditures decreased by 200,000. That was just to balance out their cash, and of course, the transfer for admin fees at 166,820. On risk management, the 35,000 increase to revenues and expenditures was for the fiscal year 2024 insurance deductibles. We switched in 2024 that now all the departments pay their own deductibles before the general fund paid for everybody. So that was the total that needed to be put in there. Each time we have a claim, it's usually $2,500. So that is the budget adjustment for the quarter. Any questions?
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, I move approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-27.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote there, Madam Clerk?
Fighting with my microphone. Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And you're up next again, Jay. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2024-28, a resolution approving the final quarter financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, an application to the Local Government Division, LGD, of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for the approval thereof.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilors, state statute requires me to bring the fourth quarter DFA report to council for approval. However, each quarter, the IFC, the Internal Finance Committee, reviews this report, and so it's always available if you ever want to see it. What it details is the recap of ending cash balances by fund for DFA, and I believe it's in the I think it says DFA report in your budget packet. So when you open that spreadsheet, what it's looking at is column number 8, where it has cash and investments. Those are the ending cash balances. The only difference between this and what we actually have on hand, this is on a full accrual basis. So our adjustments are adjusted to fair market value, whereas on my books, I keep them at cost. And right now, some of our investments are a little bit shy on cost because of the fluctuation in interest rates. So if you compared the general funds ending cash and investments, you'll see that it's at 9.6 million. But if you happen to look at the other agenda memo under the roll forward or the general fund cash projection, you'll see that we ended the general fund at $10,227,000. And that's just for the change in fair market value of some of our investments. But when we hold them all the way to maturity, there's no difference between cost and fair market. So that's just a thing for DFA, how we have to report. But the good thing to know is that out of that 10 million that the general fund ended with, we used 4.2 to balance the budget in 25, and that we have on reserve 3.7. And as you recall, in addition to the 8% that the state requires, we do another 8% of our own. And during budget season, we had said if we needed to, we can tap into that second 8% for any disasters or grant matches. So an 8% reserve is about $1.8 million. So even if we take our reserve at the full 16.7 and the amount that's used to balance the budget, we're at 7.9 million. So we still have another 2.1 million if we needed to on top of that additional 16% reserve. So I know we'll probably see some shortages on GRT this year, so we do have a little bit of a cushion, but it won't last forever, so we'll have to figure out how to shore it up. I know the state has said that they might be giving us money for lost revenues. There is also a FEMA corporate loan program that we can tap into. It's $5 million, and after 3 years, it could be 100% forgiven, but it's through FEMA. So that's another alternative if we get into a situation where we need cash funding, quick and furious, we might be able to look into that.
Judy, is there a deadline on that? As far as filing?
I think it's 90 days from the disaster, so I know we've talked about it in IFC, but I don't know. We could use it, we could apply for it and get it and just hold it if we need it and see what happens, or we can just decide not to take it. But the gal that runs it has actually reached out to me and said if we wanted to or we needed any other questions answered, that she'd be more than willing to take the time and help us with it.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Judy.
Yes.
You haven't noting how quickly FEMA responds. Have you any idea what the turnaround would be if we even applied for it today?
Well, they're pushing it, and I've already gotten 2 different people talking to me about it, so I'm assuming, I'm assuming it's a little bit quicker because it's a direct allocation from FEMA to us. So I think once you do the application, it shouldn't be that long, but who knows? I can find out for sure.
Is it defined in how we use it, or?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Pro
That, we
Tem,
can just hold it in our back pocket.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Jackson, the only thing we can't do is it has to be in a non-interest bearing fund account. We can't draw interest on federal funds.
Yeah, you can't take 0% interest rate money and make money off of it. So,
Susan, you had a question?
Have you had any indication with the governor coming and all the department heads, when we could start seeing money?
Well, Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Lutterman, she has committed, made those commitments. She hadn't signed the bill that was at the special session. She said she would sign it today. So we're hoping to see, and that's 70 million. That's going to be a loan for us, the county, Mescalero and Otero County. So
I know, but that's 70 million for all of
Yes.
the need, which, I mean,
I guess to answer that, and I'll have Mike here also, he's working, we're just still working through the processes and in place where some of the, like for the debris removal, it's going to be handled directly from the state. We won't have to pay anything out. It's all going to be covered under the state. I'll let Mike.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Letterman. So on a call I was on this morning at 9 o'clock, they believe that funds should be available today where we can access them. Obviously, that $70 million is in the form of a loan, but that could possibly be forgiven over time. They believe that a lot of the larger charges that we've received. So as Judy mentioned earlier in the budget, during the budget item, we were at 1.2 million. We're going to escalate that a little bit higher. We think we can get some of that money up front. That's not going to be a loan that would reimburse us for all of those costs. But that initial form of money should be ready to go hopefully with this week so that we can start addressing items. You are correct, that 70 million is for everyone, but there's really two disasters that the state's focused on. They're handling the majority of those costs in general at that higher level. So the 70 million is really for the local operations costs. It will probably go very quickly, but it will be taken up for us on most of the part. And then just as a side note, the PA assistance person for FEMA that's reaching out, I believe that application is the turnaround time is fairly quickly. They're talking within 6 months.
Did the governor sign the bill?
No.
not yet.
Not yet.
In Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Lutterman, again on the 70 million, it's going to be administered through the Department of Finance and Administration, but they have to work on a process. Right now, the language says it has to be, anytime you submit a reimbursement, it has to go through the Board of Finance. They're trying to work on that because it'd be sending in a reimbursement, say the village sent a reimbursement for $2 million. We're already expending that. It's going to have to go through the Board of Finance. They have to have a meeting. They have to approve the cost. So they're working through all of that. So that may take a little while, but I'm reaching out to the DFA director to find out if there's any new information on that, so.
But as Councilor Corey mentioned, this isn't relevant until the governor signs it. I know you said it's available right now, we knew that.
They said, yeah.
And that, we knew that, but until the governor signs that bill, it's nil right now, to me anyway, so.
That's correct.
But, I mean, hopefully, yeah, she'll get
So-
it signed.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the village infrastructure, I noticed Two Rivers Park, how bad is that bathroom? The new bathroom that we put up?
Let me have Matthew come on up. He did a inspection with our self-insurance fund on Friday.
So as you've seen the park, it's not pretty. The bathroom, luckily it's a concrete building, so the building structure itself is okay. We're worried about the electrical in it, which we can't really check right now. One, we're leaving it boarded up just because we were expecting more flooding and stuff, and so I don't want to unboard it to go in and check it, to reboard it. We did go through with the self-insurance fund, and today I'll actually go through with Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management with the state this afternoon. Some of the other things damaged in that park are like the walking bridge, the second walk across bridge, the playground. While the playground structure itself is okay, all of the sand underneath it, that's engineered sand, and so we have to actually pull all that out because it got flooded to put new sand in. The big log pavilion
Yes.
is broken. One of the support legs is gone. There's some other supports that are messed up. We are missing most of our picnic tables
Yeah, I
out
noticed
of the
that
park.
too.
The pavilion, and that it's a danger, just.
Yeah. Yeah, so the pavilion, we do have it roped off right now. We're trying to get
Saw that.
somebody to look at it to be able to tell us, yes, it's repairable, no, it's not. The Army Corps of Engineers, all their engineers that are in currently are what they call lateral engineers or horizontal engineers, so they can do bridges, things like that. They don't do anything, vertically, so no buildings.
There is a concern that in the next flood, it could be taken out and it could go down, the waterway. And so we are having a quick evaluation by, secondary team to figure out whether it needs to come down, to see whether that pavilion needs to come down in
Yeah.
the next day or two.
For the record, can you define the pavilion we're talking about? We have 3 pavilions there,
It's the
so
one on the front side,
closest to Sutter,
no, the next one.
so the one more in the neighborhood,
Yes,
So-
that bigger one there.
right?
So, Mayor Pro Tem, why wouldn't we go ahead, Judy, and apply for the FEMA money?
I agree.
I was just waiting to see on direction of what we wanted to do.
Could it also work on bridges?
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Letterman, I believe that funding can be used for any type of infrastructure, but we'll just have to see the guidelines on that, so.
Yeah. Agree.
So it sounds like a consensus to get that process moving on that part. I did have, wanted to ask the council, because I was thinking about this yesterday with that extra 8% that we doubled up on our general fund. I know there's times where the mayor needs to make that split second, decision or request that we give him the authority and liberty to use that. And then we, rectify it or ratify it at our next council meeting if the need comes up. So if there is a situation like this, for instance, right there, yes, move forward on, especially if it's, gonna cover most of our, loss, GRT funds. So, I mean, that's just a proposal to think about and see what you guys think, but looking at that, because I thought about that at the last budget hearing, let's just go back to the 1/8, not have the 2/12s for it and let us go from there, but I'm glad that we kept it at that 2/12s or 16% in there. But that's something to think about on there. Any other questions for Judy on this?
No, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve adoption of resolution 2024-28, a resolution approving the final quarter financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, an application to the local government division of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for the approval thereof.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
I believe Counselor Eby was second, right? Counselor Hooker?
Right.
Aye.
I defer
Counselor
to the
Eby.
older man.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Judy. Item 3, discussion of possible action on resolution 2024-29, a resolution allowing the use of recreational vehicles as temporary housing. Who's speaking to this? Ron?
Mayor Pro Tem Salas and Council, Zach worked on, he's the one that prepared the resolution with the mayor, so I'll have Zach present this one.
So Mayor and Council, this is a resolution that the mayor requested that would allow the use of recreational vehicles as temporary housing. So what it does is call for the relaxation of the enforcement of the ordinances that prohibit living in your RV. So I drafted this. Ron found there's a city in Oregon, I believe, that had a fire several years ago, and I kind of borrowed their a very similar resolution, and created that Exhibit A.
Mayor Pro Tem, Zach, so this would last a year?
That's the way it's drafted.
Would it sunset on its own?
Let me see how it's, governing body of the Village of Ruidoso will review the impact of this resolution on or before July 25th. There should be just.
Is a year enough time?
I don't think that really says that it'll sunset. All it says is that you guys will revisit it on or before that date a year from now. If you want it to sunset, that's an easy fix.
Well, I just worry about passing an exemption with no deadlines.
Yeah.
It just kind of hangs out there. Another question, Zach, do HOAs trump this, or this would trump HOAs?
I believe HOAs would trump this.
And Mayor Pro Tem Salas and council, the main reason this portion was developed through Zach, as we were working through our regular ordinances, there were individuals that had started to ask to place trailers on their private property. One of the things that we wanted to identify was that those pieces of private property weren't necessarily safe. And so that's why the ordinance was drafted the way it was, to make sure that individuals had a location that they could put on or share that, good neighbor policy approach. And so a lot of the items that you see in Exhibit A spell out a lot of those functions of how you would be able to connect to utilities, making sure that Adam was okay with several of those items, making sure that that process was in place. And then in case it doesn't sundown on that 1 year item, what we will have incorporated into this is a recording process. So we will be able to identify all of those individuals through a list process as they register. Stephanie will be addressing those through planning and zoning, and how we'll be able to handle that. So we will make sure we're tracking everyone, and we will make sure that everyone's following at least an initial process to hook up to utilities, so that there isn't any dark water, gray water, or things like that negatively impacting the community.
Okay, so Michael, going along with that line there, the only question I had on that, because you said to track the individuals that were registering. So is there going to be a permit issued for this? And also, is there going to be because it does say here that economic burden faced by the victims of the fire and floods, is there going to be some sort of verification that this is a victim of the flood and fire, or fire?
So currently, have we asked that question yet? If they are a victim, a direct impact? So yes, we are. I wanted to verify. We are asking if the individual has lost their home, either in the fire or the flood. I believe they give us the address. Once we identify and locate that it was something that was lost, then they can submit their information and allow us to track them in that method. And so we verify, there is a permit that's taken out, and it is for that year timeframe, and it allows that individual to have access to the location they're requesting.
Thank you.
Sir.
I had the question on the sanitation facilities right there in the fourth bullet. The property owner may allow an RV connection to an existing sanitary sewer line. Does that meaning that they could do a hard pipe to get it there? Because that's the concern I have.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, that was one of the things that we had brought up, is we don't want people dumping, because when they go on vacation or whatever, and
Right.
they store the black water in their RVs, that's when it fouls out the plant. But if they are hardlining their campers to the line, I mean, it's just like a household, they can just let it run in the sewer.
And they'll have a plumber install that, or to have that, because I do want it hard pipe to have that connection straight to the RV.
So I think that's gonna be something we need to put in the resolution then, is it can't just be a soft line, it's gotta be a hard pipeline to the.
For one thing, we don't have any dumping stations.
Exactly.
We don't, and that's the whole question there, but that would be preferable to make sure that that's there. And then, of course, they could use a water hose to hook their water up to it, I guess. Right.
Yeah, I think they just need to,
What have
there's
you.
need to be something in there that says that they need to follow the guidelines of that.
Yeah.
Put that in there.
It says contact the village for applicable requirements. You still want it in there?
Yes.
Okay.
So how many people have done this already? Five?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I know of one. So,
So we're not making them do permits.
no, they
We are,
have to,
okay,
they have
okay,
to do,
okay.
is that correct, Stephanie? They have to.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
At least
so we
that's
can
what
keep
I
track.
told that one resident, says, go over here and get a permit, and then when he called me back, that it's only for 30 days, and I said, well, no, that starts the process to go on more. But going back to your question, Counselor Corey, about the sunset, you know, one year, I didn't feel that, you know, that can be possible, but given the circumstances of.
What about 18 months?
I was thinking 2 years max.
So Mayor Pro Tem Salas and council, what we may want to do as far as the language is concerned is align it with the FEMA assistance program. So if, for example, the regular program is 18 months for temporary housing, that may be the alignment that we use, so people are allowed to rebuild, they get their homes, they're expected to do a certain component. If things are taking longer, FEMA then extends usually 24 to 36 months. And so that way, everybody is on the same schedule. People aren't necessarily cut back, or different standards are held to different individuals. My recommendation would be at least aligning it with that timeframe, so that you're at least guaranteed 18 months. And then if funding is extended and others have to wait, the issue may be, they may have to wait on a new floodplain to be developed, and so that may take 9 months. And so at the end of the 9 months, they may barely be getting building permits to be able to build out. And so that would then, of course, be extended for those FEMA residents that would have to, or those FEMA applicants as well. So that may just be a time frame that helps us move forward everything, rather than coming back and revisiting a year or 18 months. It actually aligns with a date that's adjustable.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm comfortable 2 years.
24, okay.
I just don't think we need a law out there that's evergreen.
Michael, I got one question that has to do with this here, but just thinking about the people that do decide to rebuild, whether it be on the property that they lost their home or in a different location, the whole emphasis is kind of keeping track of the people who stay. So is there any way, like say through the community development, that when people apply for building permits to track if they were a victim of the fire flood and they chose to rebuild here, that way we can kind of keep say maybe in the future an idea of how many people chose to stay and how many people we actually lost?
So we can definitely do that. We may be duplicating services as part of the federal numbers that we get on a daily basis that comes out in the emails you receive from Eric. There's notification on, or it's the weekly email, I'm sorry. The notification comes back on who's receiving assistance, so it's part of that 400 number of those who's in hotels and things of that nature. And then it tells us who's going to request assistance to actually stay locally and build. And based on that, we're also tracking that information. And so we can do both. We'll make sure that we keep both so that we can identify who's staying and rebuilding from the building side through our departments, and then we can match that and see if it's the same number that we're getting on the federal side and see if there's any gap.
Sure, and it gives a kind of maybe a snapshot into the economic future and so on.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So does the Village of Ruidoso, along with who, figures out the floodplain that maybe that changing floodplains with all these burn scars?
So by ordinance right now, the Village of Ruidoso is required to have a floodplain manager, which we have one on staff, as well as we have one contractually. What we are doing is that currently there's a floodshed management team that's working on a much larger basis, and Ashley can speak more into detail on this. That floodplain management component is the feds, the state, and us locally participating. They're doing a much larger study, but the state floodplain manager, along with other individuals, are starting to identify what that looks like, to see what areas are redevelopable and what aren't, what would qualify for insurance moving forward and what wouldn't be. But it's not just floodplain in general, it's also talking about soil densities, elasticities, and the abilities for future development in certain areas. And so we're hoping that that study comes back shortly. In that same bill that hasn't been signed yet, there was roughly $10 million that was awarded to the region for that full study to be conducted. And so
For
that
our region?
For our region. So that includes Lincoln County, Otero County, and portions of Mescalero that were impacted. And so a much larger study is going to be conducted with multiple pieces of information that'll come back and allowing us to understand what that looks like.
No, just like Mike covered, so we'll be working closely with the state floodplain manager. FEMA will also come in and start remapping out the floodway and what the new floodplain's actually going to be. Based off of that, we'll get the base flood elevations. That's going to determine what properties can rebuild, what properties are going to have to be put on stilts, and then that will give the property the decisions they need on whether or not they want to rebuild.
But is there going to be different teams hitting different areas? Because right now, I'm just concerned of the Ruidoso floodplain, getting that rolling right quick, or do we have to wait till the whole plan is done?
Yeah, we'll need to wait until everything's done. And so as of right now, we're kind of at a standstill, definitely with the monsoon season. We don't know how much more damage is actually going to be impacting us and how much more that floodplain is going to change and the floodway. Because there is absolutely no building allowed within the floodways, and then the floodplain is based off of the base flood elevations from there.
Just as an expectation, there will be areas that we will not be able to build back in.
Right, we know that. It's just, we want to nope, you can't build there, so then see later. But anyway, did you have another question?
I do, I'm sorry.
And she said this was going to be a fast meeting.
Maybe for us.
I'll have to admit, I did say that. And this might be for Adam, and I'm sorry, Adam. And it's a two-part question about, we have, and I know that you've been working on so much different things, with all the rocks, the boulders, and, all you have to do is look at behind Schlotsky's and all that work that was done to, it's all gone, basically. So have you been able to do any kind of research about the sewer? Is all the encasement and all of that, is that holding up?
So the encasement of the sewer line, the actual sewer line is still there. Now, the magic block, the wing walls that they buried to protect the manholes that are on the side right there are gone along with the manholes. So everything.
So where are you talking about?
Behind all slips.
I've seen that, yes,
So
okay.
the guys did get it tied back in.
And what do you mean by wing walls?
So they buried walls underneath, so you have the river channel. They
Okay.
buried the walls under the river channel to stabilize the banks where the manholes set there. The flow of that water completely took out the wing walls. Now, the sewer line itself, the crossing itself is still there. The sewer line that comes out of the Meacham Bridge and ties into the first manhole was gone, along with the two manholes. The guys did get it tied back in. I'm actually working with an engineer right now. I got an idea. I'm gonna eliminate everything down there and pump everything up to Sutterth. So.
Okay.
It was, in the hazard mitigation, it looked good, for a 100-year flood. but the flooding
It's
we're having now
1,000?
is
And
waiting on that.
along with that, I noticed, the first couple of floods that, the trees were all doing this, and now it's pretty much, you can't see anything. And then Two Rivers,
Destroyed.
it makes me sick.
Yeah.
So we're starting all over again.
Yep, we're gonna start all over, we're starting all over, the mitigation measures that the Water Resource Department was doing to kind of help with flood dispersion. The good news is, several of the structures are actually still intact, so we know it works, but our department will be reevaluating, of what we can do moving forward.
So will some of that money be, that we're receiving, could that be a help in stuff like that as
And
well?
we still also plan on going out for river stewardship grants. Whatever grants we can go for, we're gonna go
Okay.
for.
I would also recommend that as we start moving forward, you all did the due diligence of looking at long-term planning early on in the budget component. There's a lot that can be done from river trail planning, and that's actually floodway mitigation. A lot of locations have done their walkways and different components so that it looks nice, but it's not just what it looks like, it's actually the functionality of what that does. It protects the river, it does a lot of river restoration, there's a lot of banks protection. It helps armor sewer lines that are in the area. So there's a lot that can be done as we move forward from a planning perspective, as we start to look at those areas and what the impact will be moving forward.
You guys, thank you so much. And I know for all of us, and especially the ones out in the field, one day at a time. I have one more question, and then I
Does
promise.
this pertain to the temporary,
Say we need to get back
stay on
as-
topic of the temporary housing?
Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion.
Go right
Mayor
ahead,
and
sir.
council, I foresee some disputes about what this thing means down the road. So I'd like to go over the changes that we've made, just so that there is a clear record of what y'all discussed and what you decided the final resolution would say. So in section 1, on page 1 of the resolution, it currently says the Village of Ruidoso hereby temporarily suspends enforcement of the prohibition of RVs. I'd recommend taking out suspends and put modifies, so it's clear that you're not just stopping enforcement.
Yeah.
And then in section 2, that's fourth sentence down, or line down that says should resume enforcement. I would insert should resume strict enforcement of the provisions of the village. And then, so based on your conversation of 2 years, let me go over how I changed that entire section 2. Now, I've written it to say, the governing body of the Village of Ruidoso will review the impact of this resolution on or before July 28, 2026, to determine if this resolution should remain in effect, if there should be adjustments to the guidelines, Exhibit A, or if staff should resume strict enforcement of the provisions of the Village of Ruidoso Code of Ordinances that restrict the occupancy of recreational vehicles outside of those cases where it is specifically allowed. In the event that the governing body fails to review the impact of the resolution on or before July 28, 2026, this resolution shall expire on its own terms on July 29, 2026. And then about the sewer. On that fourth bullet, I've amended it to say the property owner may allow an RV connection to an existing sanitary sewer line, and here's the new language, on the condition that such connection is a hard line connection installed by a licensed plumber. Does that language make sense, Adam?
Sounds good to me. All right.
Okay.
Would that need to be inspected by the village after the connection?
Yes.
Okay, so let me put that in.
Usually the plumber, if they're pulling the permit for the RV, the plumber will put it in, it'll be part of the permit process.
So on the condition that such connection is a hardline connection installed by a licensed plumber and passes inspection by village staff.
There you go.
So a motion to adopt as amended.
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve adoption of Resolution 2024-29, a resolution allowing the use of recreational vehicles as temporary housing with the agreed-upon amendments.
Second.
So I just got one question on that amendment there. Is that the language was until 2026?
6.
Now, because I believe that it's kind of, the way it's worded, it's giving us a little bit of leeway as far as going to see if there's any hiccups that might come up in the next month or so. So that kind of eliminates the review process and just seeing if there's any hiccups.
You can come back and review it anytime.
I don't see a problem with that. If there's something there, then we could change the resolution and
Okay, just
adopt
amend
it from there.
already.
So, we have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Corey,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
All right, Mayor,
Number
welcome
4.
back.
If you want to.
We're on item number 4.
Okay. That is a resolution. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry for my tardiness. Nothing like meetings on meetings. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on task order RFP number 2024-004P-WWE-01 with Waterworks Engineers LLC for the design of Two Rivers raw water intake and transmission in the amount of $478,179.00.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This task order is to award design services to one of our on-call engineers. This would be Waterworks Engineers. They're going to redesign the Two Rivers raw water intake and transmission line. It's also known as the Anaconda Line that runs through Carrizo Creek. The goal is to put in new infrastructure, kind of reinforce the pumps that are there and get this line buried. That's the design. Is there any questions?
You answered my question and all the questions I got for the last 10 years. Where are you going to bury that line?
So
That's the
So,
Anaconda?
the Anaconda, so that will be buried. Is it the
Right.
same line or is it?
where
gonna
it's
be-
gonna be all new line, it's all new infrastructure. Our concern was with the weathering of the materials, we just wanted to put brand-new infrastructure in.
Because if I remember right, Mayor, that was only going to be a temporary.
Yeah, it was supposed to be.
Just, yeah, like a couple of years and stuff, so. But I'm
What-
glad that we're having this done this way.
What about the generator that's down there on that pump? You know, was it damaged by the flood? I was told that it was.
I don't think so.
Not 100%.
From what I understand, speaking to Terry, there was some damage to it. They're just still trying to assess how bad it is, if it's going to be salvageable, if we need to replace it completely. But I haven't gotten a report back about that yet.
Concur back there, Adam? Okay.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, Self-Insurance Fund also inspected and took pictures, and we'll get a report from them also.
Thanks for getting on that, Ron. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I move approval of task order RFP 2024-004P-WWE-01 with Waterworks Engineers LLC.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Corey,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Item number 5, discussion and possible action on change order number 2 with KD Huey Company LLC for ITB number 2023-010B-well H-1979-S3 Riverwell and H-1979-S13 modifications, re-advertisement to increase the contract time by an additional 60 days and increase the cost incurred during suspension of project through snowmaking season by $61,725.21, including New Mexico GRT, for a total project cost of $760,858.71, including NMGRT. Yes, ma'am?
So during snowmaking season, we did have to pull Huey off, so that way we could run the snowmaking machine without any interference. Due to this, Huey did come to us for a change order for an increase in cost, which is included in your packet. And it includes, sorry, there it is. Remobilization fees, another demobilization fee. Then if there's any cost of inflation, which it was not. And so this is just to kind of help cover the costs that he did incur during that time.
But we weren't waiting on KD before? Didn't we have some issues with them that we had to wait on something?
We were going back and forth, equipment was breaking down, and so we would have to wait an additional week for equipment to come back, and then equipment did break down again, and so there was a lot of back and forth. We're presenting this at the request of the Hueys going through John Shoemaker.
Mayor, Mr. Huey was asked to leave so that we could accommodate the snowmaking. He left at our request, and then the snowmaking didn't start as we thought it would. It started a month later. If he was allowed to stay, he probably would have finished the project, so he had to be pulled off for quite a while, and then he came back, and now we're dealing with flooding. So it's kind of been quite a long project because of the back and forth, so I think he's trying to recoup some of the mobilization and demob costs that he had during that.
So where's the 62 come from?
The mobilization and the demobilization along with the NMGRT.
No, where does it come from?
Oh, we're gonna be pulling it out of SGRT.
SGRT.
And this total cost of $760,000, that's on us so that we can have snowmaking.
No,
No. It's
there was a whole nother project that we were working on that was 700,000
Okay.
roughly. And then we asked him to pull off, so it's the 61,000.
Okay.
So that increased the total by 60, up to 768.58.
Correct.
So it's about our water well, it's
Yeah,
the Green
okay.
River well, it's
Okay.
all
I
of
can
that stuff.
remember all the,
Yeah.
been a while.
Yeah, the project required that we take down all the snowmaking equipment so that Huey could get all his equipment
Sure.
back there. So that's why we had to
Okay.
move out of the way
Okay.
afterwards.
Okay, any other questions?
I just got a silly question. Is that, so that snowmaking equipment, that's not our equipment, is it?
No.
No.
No, so who in the end, you say we requested the removal or him to stop because of the snow making, so we all know, but who's making the snow?
Mr. Dorgan?
Mr. Dorgan.
Yes, so was that our request? Was that his request?
Well, we have a contract to supply him water from point this time to another time. So it was kind of getting in that whole area.
Yeah, the whole area during the snow making and all that stuff, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
there was dates within the contract, and we were just trying to comply with those dates within the
And
contract.
you know where that well's at? It's right down there at that bottom part where they put their pond, and we had to have him move his pond pit and all that stuff, so he was trying to get back. I mean, I'm not happy about it either, but sounds like it was our decision.
Well, that and because of the contract, we had to move, and then the weather just didn't cooperate. It stayed too warm for him to start snowmaking, so it kind of just worked out that way.
And where I was kind of going is, I know that with Huey, we had some issues with equipment, and so there's a push me, pull me, but I get it.
Is that, and that's our property?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we get all the GRT off.
Yep, yep.
And I will say that at no time was this affecting any of our water production.
No.
We were keeping up. This goes back to that Eagle Creek water well restoration, I would call it there, to just work on all our wells, so as we need them, we could pull from them.
Any other questions? Motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve change order number 2 with KD Huey Company LLC for ITB number 2023-010B or OB, as stated.
Second.
Final discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Solis?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Item number 6, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action on final change order number 3 with J&H Services, Inc. for the Pine Cliff Water System Improvements Project, resulting in a decrease of $306,184.57, including New Mexico GRT. Sir, yes, sir.
Mayor, council, so like it says, this is the final change order for J&H. They had completed the project. There was a couple things taken off the project. One of them was, the big one was the rock clause that we had put in there, just in case they hit rock. There was a couple field engineering pieces that we did, but I mean, they did a great job on this project.
I think they did too.
Nothing's been damaged with the flooding?
We had one fire hydrant that was hit by the semi truck that floated down, but
yes.
other than that, we're all good.
Okay.
Make a motion.
So make a, oh, go
I have
ahead.
a question right quick, Adam, on the decreasing of the of the fire hydrants, of the 4 to 3, that's bid item number 13. But then you jump down there where there's another, an additional, adding a fire hydrant, and if I could find it right quick.
That was, Councilor Salas, that was when we did the second phase of the project, it was to add one. We decreased on the first phase of the project because there was already a fire hydrant right next to it.
Okay.
And then we added, when we did the number 1 change order, to do a Highway 70, we added a hydrant on there.
That extra hydrant.
Yes, sir.
Right there, okay. I was just trying to figure out there, and what was the reason to drop the gate valves from 9 to 6?
There was, some of the tie-ins already had the gate valves for isolation. So
Okay.
they just had to do the one between.
Wanted to make sure we're still able to isolate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I had.
I'll make a motion to approve the final change order number 3 with J&H Services, Inc. for the Pine Cliff Water System Improvements Project, resulting in a decrease of $306,184.57, including NMGRT.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Solis?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
All right, number 7, discussion and possible action on purchase of 4 2024 Silverado 2500 four-wheel drive crew diesel trucks from Tillery Chevrolet utilizing the CES contract number 2024-23 C-116-all in the amount of $242,264, no cents. And I guess the GRT will be going there.
Yes, sir. Mayor, council, so this, in our original budget, we budgeted for a new dump truck this year. Due to the fires and the flooding, the older trucks we have took a toll. And, I mean, we're just gonna take some of that money from the dump truck that's gonna be year out anyway, to get these trucks for the crews.
Yeah.
What's your timeline on these? They have them in stock?
They're on the ground, ready to be picked up.
Okay.
Nice.
Any other
That
questions?
PO to them this afternoon.
They're holding them for us. Costello's already.
Said they'll deliver Wednesday if they get
Oh
a
my
PO
gosh.
today.
Well, given all of that, I move to approve purchase of 4 2024 Silverado 2500 four-wheel drive crew diesel trucks from Tillery Chevrolet utilizing CES contract 2024-23 C-116-ALL in the amount of $242,264.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Solis?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adam. That concludes the agenda for today. Did anybody introduce Alex?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
sir.
he came around.
Okay.
We visited with him.
All right, so now you got eyes on him, so you know what he looks like. Michael's back. You feel better, Mike? Yeah, okay, he's sitting way over in the corner because he's
Yeah.
lingering. So that concludes the agenda for today. This meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Mayor.
Hey, are you-
All right, yeah, well, you introduced Alex.
are y'all getting updates from Eric?
How are you?